In the annual report a few years back, you described Coca-Cola and Gillette as the two invincibles. With Pepsi as a strong competitor today, do you still continue to view Coca-Cola as the invincible? Additionally, with respect to American Express Company, with last year's financial results at American Express, how do you now view American Express?
Yeah, I think the term I used was inevitables, actually, but it's very close to the same thing. I think when I made that statement, I said Coca-Cola and soft drinks or Gillette and blades and razors. I mean, I did not extend them to the entire corporate portfolio, particularly in the case of Gillette, but to the blade and razor business. Gillette now has 71% by value of the blade and razor business in the world. Just think of that. I mean, 71%. Here's a product that everybody knows what it does. They know how to make, they know where it's sold. They know that it's a high margin business. I mean, it isn't like the world, or the capitalist world's unaware of the money that could be made if they could knock off Gillette, but they can't knock off Gillette, and it's 71%. And that's a little higher percentage than when I wrote about it. Actually, Coca-Cola's worldwide market share is a little higher now than it was when I wrote that 5 years ago. And I would say that 5 or 10 years from now, I would be amazed if Gillette or Coca-Cola have lost market share in their respective fields. Coca-Cola sells half, roughly, of the soft drinks in the world, and soft drink consumption per capita goes up basically every year, and the per capitas go up. I mean, the capitas go up every year also. So you get these gains. Maybe they're 3% or 5% in units or 4%. It was 5% in the first quarter, but it was poorer than that. I think it was 3% last year. But when you have half the world, and the world's population is growing at a little under 2%, and you're getting 3 or 4% from something that's as pervasive as soft drinks, you're doing all right. And it was crazy, in my view, for people to think that earnings can grow 15 or 18% a year in a business where you have half the world's business, and units are going to grow fine, but they're not going to grow anything like 15 or 12% or 10%. The Coca-Cola business has done fine. People went crazy in terms of valuing some of these businesses a few years back, and I think we had some cautionary language in there generally about the valuations at which the business is sold. But the business is 71% in blades and razors. There's some countries where it's 90. In the U.S., it's also about 70%. Those are huge market shares of something people use every day. In this country, it's a little over 8 ounces per day, it's actually more like 9.5 ounces per day for every man, woman, and child in the United States out of the 64 ounces they drink. Well, you're not going to have galloping percentage increases from that arena, but the company's made basically good progress. People got carried away from the stock, and with the stock, and I would argue that they may have gotten encouraged a little bit too much by not only Wall Street, but even by company pronouncements in terms of possibly attainable gains. There aren't large companies. There may be one someplace somehow very large now that will grow at 15 or 18% a year, but it just isn't in the cards in the world, and we don't want anybody to think Berkshire could do that either, because we can't do it from a very large base. The world doesn't allow that, but it does allow making reasonable progress, and certainly Coke and Gillette in those areas where I said they were inevitable have done very well. Gillette has not done as well with acquisitions, as is clear. I mean, the Gillette acquisition of Duracell resulted in giving 20-odd% of the business for another business, and that business has not done nearly as well as either the management or the investment bankers thought it was going to do at the time the deal was made. Charlie?
Well, I would say regarding that last instance that's the normal result. When you've got a wonderful business and you issue shares in it to buy another business, I say at least 2 times out of 3, it's a terrible idea.
Well, Geico is a great example. Geico is a wonderful business. Absolutely wonderful. It gets more wonderful by the day. It has the world's best manager, Tony Nicely, running it. Geico, in the last 20 years, went into at least three other insurance businesses I can think of. They went into Resolute Insurance, which was a reinsurance operation, started in the mid-'80s. It was a disaster. They went into two others, Southern something or other, and another one that started with an M. I don't know why in the hell they would go into them. I mean, they had a great insurance business, and there aren't that many great insurance businesses, and neither one of those amounted to anything. I think they sold them off at some point. But why would you have an absolutely wonderful business and start one and buy two others that are obviously mediocre, where you bring nothing to the party, but management's it's very human to want to do that. It's no great sin that the Geico management did it, because we see it happen time after time after time. I can tell you this, Charlie and I have no urges like that. I mean, we want to buy easy things. We do not have to prove our manhood by doing something terribly difficult. And I think a lot of managements feel that necessity. They've got a wonderful business. And the cigarette companies did that. Cigarette companies had these great businesses, and it irritated them that they liked to think they were business geniuses, and so they would go out and buy other things, and those other businesses generally did not do that well. Now, I'm not saying they should have been in the cigarette business in the first place, but they were not business geniuses because they could make a lot of money selling an addictive product. That did not make them business geniuses, and so they wanted to prove it other ways, and they bought businesses and fell on their face in many cases. Charlie, do you have any more to add on cigarette company?
No, but I think a lot of people rise to the top in publicly held corporations who come up in sales or engineering or drug development or what have you. And it's natural to assume once you're sitting in the top chair that now you know pretty much everything, or at least how to get wisdom out of this wonderful staff and all these outside advisors that are now available to you. And so I think it's very natural that perfectly terrible acquisition decisions get made, I'd say more often than not.